Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to session 7 of 8 here for the first day of Dare to Be Great 2020. It has been excellent so far. I mean, just all the networking, all the comments and everything that have been coming in, and just people enjoying all of it, taking this knowledge and just learning a lot from all the speakers here. Thank you all for being here with us, and this is going to be an excellent one. I am here with my good friend Matt Grogan, and it's Grogan, G-R-O-G. G as in George. If you look up in the upper left, it has a B as in boy, because that's what my dumbass put in there. It actually was me after all, man. I looked back at it, and it was me.
Was it? I thought it was me that spelled it wrong.
Man.
I told you, not surprised at all. I spelled my own name wrong.
A lot of late nights of designing and putting all this stuff, going through all this stuff with the planning committee and everything. That was my bad. So, Matt Grogan. And Matt is a public safety instructor with the Denise Foundation, bringing over 14 years of public safety communications experience. With that experience and through his passion and enthusiasm for the job, he brings a raw and realistic teaching style to his trainings and presentations, and puts an emphasis on combining all the perspectives and roles within a 911 center, from telecommunicators to supervisors, management, and beyond. He ties his experience in large, high-volume PSAPs along with his experiences working events like the 1 October Route 91 Harvest Festival shooting. When not with the foundation, Matt serves as a communication specialist for the Combined Communications Center of Las Vegas Fire and Rescue. This award-winning center covers fire and medical dispatching for the majority of Clark County in southern Nevada, which houses over 2 million residents and is home to the world-famous Las Vegas Strip, which welcomes over 45 million visitors a year. Currently holding his emergency number professional certification from NENA, Matt also holds numerous certifications from NENA, APCO, FEMA, the Center of Domestic Preparedness, the Emergency Management Institute, and many other public safety training organizations. Active on the national level, he has served on the National APCO Pro
Chart
committee, and was a committee board member for the National Joint TERT Initiative. On the state level, he serves as the first vice president for the Nevada APCO chapter and is the state coordinator for the Nevada TERT team. Take it away, my friend.
All right. I appreciate everything you're doing for us today, Ricardo. I know Ricardo's taking a much needed break that he needs at this very moment. So good afternoon to everyone out there all across the country and even worldwide. I've heard we've had some people overseas that are tuning into this. I'm coming to you obviously from very sunny and very warm Las Vegas right now. We're getting ready for our first 100-degree day this week. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm going to talk to you today about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and it's on behavior. And the title of the session today is called Bad Apple Syndrome: Harnessing the Power of Infectious Behavior in Your ECC. And I think that's really apt today, especially the fact that we kicked off with Halcyon and her being an encourager presentation, which was really fantastic. I was tuning into it as I was taking calls this morning at work. So that also lets you know I'm just a little bit tired. So hopefully we're going to get through this all together. Those of you that are working, I appreciate the fact that you guys are tuning into this, and to all my overnighters, my power shifters, my afternoon shifters that are going to be watching this later. I really appreciate you guys, and we're gonna power through this together. So, like Ricardo said, my name is Matt Grogan. I've been in 911 since 2005. I didn't necessarily get into this profession looking to be a 911 dispatcher. I was one of those people that just kind of stumbled upon this, and it just fit. I spent the first 10 years of my career at an agency in Illinois called DuComm, DuPage Public Safety Communications. For any of you that are from DuComm that might be watching this, I miss all of you guys, and I hope to see you guys soon. I decided I did not sweat nearly enough in life, so I wanted to come out here to Las Vegas. And for the past 4.5 years, I've been with the Combined Communications Center of Las Vegas Fire and Rescue. I'm going to start off today with a question to all of us, and I think it's something that like I said, we've all been talking, with Halcyon talking about being an encourager, with Tracy talking about, interpersonal behavior and relationships within the center is behavior overall, and is behavior contagious? Good, bad, indifferent. Do you think it's contagious? Personally, professionally, any aspect of your life, do you think that what either you do or what other people do is it contagious to you and outwards? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a video that if you don't think behavior is contagious, this will kind of just give you a really idea. And anyone that's been in one of Nathan's classes, the victim's plea, you're gonna recognize this video, and of course any supervisors. So enjoy.
Hello. Yo, what's up? None, B. Just watching the game, having a bud. What's up with you? None. Watching the game, having a bud. True. 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 What's up? What's up? Yo, what's that? Yo, they're picking the phone. Hello? What's that? What's up? Yo, where's Dookie? Yo, Dookie. Yo. What's that? What's that? Hold on. Hello? So what's up, B? Watching the game, having a bud. True. True.
All right. So obviously behavior is contagious. The question we're going to ask here today is bad behavior contagious? And based just simply on that video alone, it's an over resounding yes, that bad behavior is contagious, not only in your personal life or your professional life, but in your centers. Behavior is so contagious, in fact, that numerous studies have been done on that exact thing. Harvard Business Review said that, and it's interesting now, especially now, the fact that we're looking at, infectious disease being contagious, not only from a health aspect, but from a work aspect. Bad behavior is contagious, as they say, as a common cold. Yale University had a study that they titled, and one of the big findings was that great leaders are positively infectious. And Stanford University, as it says, workplace behavior is a lot like an infectious disease. And unfortunately, in our centers, that tends to go towards the negative as opposed to the positive. And the fact that bad behavior can run rampant through an entire center, and it can literally just kill it. We're worried about just trying to keep everyone healthy right now and checking temperatures and doing all that kind of stuff. But we also need to look at our interpersonal relationships and our behavior in our centers, because that can be just as deadly. One of the big things, and the reason I titled this presentation "Bad Apple Syndrome," it's based on a study that was done by the Rottingham School of Management. They're out of Europe. And they did a study called "How, When, and Why Bad Apples Spoil the Barrel." It's negative group members and dysfunctional groups. One of their conclusions was that just having one slacker or jerk, and they actually had technical definitions to each one of those, can bring down performance in a business place by 30 to 40%. And a lot of us in centers don't like to look at a 911 center as a business, or in terms of like a private commercial business, but it still is, because the relationships are still the same. The way that management deals with people are still the same. So we need to kind of look at it in the same way. They went on to further say that behavior is remarkably contagious. And the biggest thing I want you to take out of this is the fact that if we don't address behavior and how it affects us, it sets the stage for even our most skilled people to fail. And that's a really important part, because, maybe you're not dealing with the bad apple in your center. You're not dealing with the person that might be causing issues, that might be skirting authority, or not following procedures or policies, and just overall being disruptive. And you try and deal with them, but there's a windfall in the fact that they're also setting the people that do their job up, do their job right, for them to fail also. And we go back to this original picture. You're going to see this a couple times throughout the day. And it was just a picture that I found on Google for bad behavior. And we look at the guy on the right, which is the stereotypical bad behavior, the person that doesn't care, that's on a personal phone call, that's just acting poorly. If anyone can wear flip-flops in your center, please, we need to have another discussion about that. But the person on the left is the one that's really effective, because they're still trying to do their job. They're just trying to answer their calls and literally just save lives. But it's the person on the right that gets the most attention, that causes the most problems. And if you don't address the person on the right, the person on your left is really going to, set themselves up for failure. And I'm going to use a universal term here today with behavior, and it's infectious behavior. It's one of the things that Nathan and I talk about in the victim's plea class, and you're going to hear Nathan on Wednesday. I really urge you to tune into that. He's really absolutely fantastic. And I really came on to the term infectious behavior through his class. We're obviously, like I said, aware of how behavior affects us personally and within our centers. But it was the term infectious behavior, something that just really stuck to me, and how we can really just look at it in our centers, and how if we become people, as Adam says, servant leadership, people first, that if we look at that methodology for management and just personal relationships, we're going to set our center up for success. Now, before I talk about dealing with the bad apples, I'm going to talk about some positive ways that you can deal with and just set your center up for success using infectious behavior. Not necessarily just being a person that's smiling and happy and positive all the time. That's really fantastic, and I'm actually going to get into some of that in a little bit. But I'm going to look at some systematic things that you can do within your center that just set up what an organizational culture for success. I'm going to look at 4 different roles within your center and how you can do things at each one of those levels, and just really again to set up infectious behavior in the most positive way. The 4 roles, as you can see, I'm going to kind of break them down. Not all centers have all of these roles, and you're going to see some of you might have all 4 roles within your center. The first one I'm going to talk about is administrative and executive staff. Those are people that tend to be removed from the center. They have offices that are down the hall. They're not responsible for the day-to-day operation, like shift-to-shift operations. They're looking at the overall management and administration of the entire comm center. Executive directors, deputy directors, chiefs, deputy chiefs, maybe communications managers, any of those kind of roles. We're going to look at you in the administrative and executive staff. The next one is going to be your line-level supervisors. Those are people that are responsible for your shift-to-shift work, your communications supervisors, your operators in charge, your lead telecommunicators, maybe just the most senior person that when someone calls, you're the person that's going to be in charge of the shift. The next one is your trainers and CTO'S, whether it's a training officer that's responsible for training classroom and academies, and then also your floor CTO'S, those people that are responsible for teaching the people in the moment, in the call, whether it's call taking or dispatching, and what they can do within the center. And then lastly, obviously, our telecommunicators and dispatchers, and just looking at a whole aspect of entire center and how each role can make a difference. And I'm going to put an emphasis on two roles. And so if you really just pay attention to 2 things, I'm going to speak to definitely my administrative and executive staff people and my trainers. These two sets of people really need to take infectious behavior and behavior within a center to heart, and they really need to own it. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is administration. What you can do as an administrator within your center to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. And the first thing is to look at your organizational culture. Basically, your organizational culture is how your center is looked at, your vision, your mission, how people look at what your center means. And if you don't address that organizational culture from a top down, you're setting yourself up for failure. One of the best things I've seen, and I'm borrowing it. I should have asked them for permission. This is the Show Up program from Terrell Morris out of the Orleans Parish Communications District, and this is what he embodied in his center, and he continues to embody in his center is the Show Up program, and not only is it his interactions within the center, but it's the expectations that he has for his staff, to the public, to the responders, to every person they come into contact with. They're going to be sincere and empathetic, honest and humble, optimistic, well-informed, willing, upbeat and positive, and procedurally compliant. That's an expectation that he has for his entire staff. And that's what he wants everyone to be. One of the other easy ways that you can look at your organizational culture is to make sure that you're embracing the job that we do. And that will lead you into recognition and reward, because anyone that's heard me talk about this profession is the fact is the power we have as dispatchers, the power we have to just save lives. And I usually close out my classes with Nathan talking about the fact that people spend their entire lives wondering if they made a difference. If they just did something good in their life. People ruminate their entire lives over this, but all we have to do as 911 dispatchers is just answer the phone. Answer the phone, and we're going to make a difference. We're going to show up to work, and we're going to make a difference. And if you embody that within your organization, the fact that you are saving lives every day, and you recognize that on a consistent basis, and you reward it, whether it be walls of life, trees of life, any just kind of recognition for the fact that people are doing good work every single day, that's going to just set you up for success. A step down from that is what they call organizational climate. And that's what I look at as kind of the short-term goals of your center. You're going to look at an overall culture like Show Up, but maybe you need to hone in on one particular thing, and we're going to look at that as organizational climate. If you want some further information in terms of the difference, Adam Tim has a really good article on his blog called Culture, Climate, and Trust. And it really just breaks down and kind of just a little Cliff Notes version of looking at those three things. And the next thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to have buy-in. And that's really important. And that is through engagement and through communication. Now, engagement is not the easiest thing. Now, if you're looking, say you're going to go to your center and you're going to start a Show Up program, you're going to have to get engagement. Because if you just on Monday drop this new Show Up program, people are going to have no idea what it is, what it's meant to be, or more importantly, what the purpose of it is. And within centers, we have people that are engaged, kind of broken down in this way. Again, this is from Adam Tim. I feel like I should stamp some healthy dispatcher stuff on here. But you always get when you roll out stuff and you're looking for people engaged, I always hear supervisors and directors say, well, I always get the same 5 people. And that's true. You're going to get those people, that 5 to 15% of your staff that's always actively engaged. They're going to participate in any call for action that you have. They're going to they're going to participate in your groups. So they're going to want to do everything. So as much as you rely on those actively engaged people, it's the rest that you really have to focus on. Your engaged people take up about 20 to 25%. Those are the people that sometimes participate. They're not going against the flow. They're positive. They're upbeat. They're just not always participating. The almost engaged people are the ones that are really just on the fence. Those are the ones that would like to participate, but maybe they just don't want to get made fun of, or they don't want to get looked at as a brown nose or those kind of things. Those are some of the people between them and the somewhat disengaged, which makes up roughly 50%, are the people you really got to focus on. The roughly disengaged ones are the ones that aren't necessarily acting against you. It's just they're there to do their work. They're there to do their job. They're going to clock in. They're going to clock out. And you really get surprised by some of the people that come out. And then the actively disengaged ones are the ones that you really just they're going against the grain, and you really just kind of have to focus. And you're not going to always get 100% of the people when you drop new programs and you look at organizational culture, but you really have to speak to all of them. Unremove yourself. This again goes to communication. Halcyon talked about it earlier today. It's just engaging with your staff. In Las Vegas, he's not there anymore. We had a communication supervisor. I know Nina. I saw Nina on here. We missed you. We want you back. I know Nina will know him. His name was Lou, and he was our communication supervisor. And he had his pluses and his minuses. But one of the things that I always loved is every morning when he came in, he would kind of drop his stuff off in the office, and he would come into the center because he was one of those supervisors that was down the hall. He wasn't responsible in terms of the day-to-day operations, in terms of actively supervising the day-to-day operations. But he would come into the center and he would say hello to every single person. He would sit and have just a little conversation, and it was his way of getting to know everybody. And he always wanted you to kind of know that he was there for you, to know that he saw you. I mean, and that's what a lot of people, they just want to be seen. They just want to know that they're making an impact, that they're making a difference. And he would have individual conversations with every single person in that room. And it wasn't always something in depth, because he has some of those people that are, some of the disengaged or the somewhat disengaged, where it's just a hi, hello, how are you doing? How's your day? And he'll move on. To others that he really just wanted to have a conversation with. Him and I were both from Illinois, so we would always have conversations about Illinois, mostly that tended to be about food and how I miss Portillo's, for those of you that are from Illinois. But the fact that, he knew a little bit about you. Now, we don't have a giant center. We have about 50 dispatchers, anywhere from 9 to 14 on at a time. But he still took a moment to just go and talk to everyone, or at least make a really valiant effort. And that's something that really is just key. That it was the first thing he did in the day, that was the first way. And not only does that give you an idea of who your staff is and what's going on, it allows you to look at the climate of the center to see if it's bad, if it's good, if it's sour, if it's happy, if it's positive, if you're having issues, maybe it's a chance for someone to vent. And just taking that second to remove yourself from the office, to walk on the floor. I'm not telling you to plug in. I'm not telling you to go supervise. I'm just telling you to go talk to your people. Just communicate, and communicate again. And lastly, don't be afraid to fail. You might start a new program. You might start a new push for something, and it might not work. All right. But the fact is, you got to try, and you got to try again. The next group I'm going to talk to you about is your line level supervisors. They're the people that are responsible for the day-to-day, shift-to-shift operations. The biggest deal as a supervisor, and this is something that I really tried to embody anytime that I was a supervisor, is that everyone's watching you. Everyone's watching your cues, whether they be emotional, whether they be physical. Everyone in the entire room is watching what you're going to do. And that goes for accountability, that goes for integrity, that goes for communication, that goes for your actions. It goes for everything, because they're looking you're their leader. You're going to see, you're going to be the one that they see, that when they come into a crisis, and I'm going to talk to at the end about crisis motivation, that when it hits the fan, they're going to look to you. They're going to look to you to see how they need to react, or how they should react, especially those new people. And your emotions and your actions can make or break an incident. If you freeze, if you have moments of doubt, you're gonna convey that onto your other people. One of the best things you can do when it comes to infectious behavior, and especially is super important with line level supervisors, because they're usually the first point of contact when it comes to feedback or punishment, or just telling someone that they might have done something wrong, is rather than telling them they did something wrong, coach them. And if you haven't heard of the GROW model when it comes to coaching, this is kind of just a real simple chart of what GROW is, and it's broken down obviously into the 4 letters and 4 categories: goal, reality, options, and will. The goal is basically the issue. What kind of problem are we trying to solve? The second is reality, and I think that's a big point that we miss in a lot of instances when we're trying to give feedback, when we're looking at things that went wrong, is why did this go wrong? Why are they not getting this? Why are they asking the questions wrong? Why are they not following the protocol? Why are they not showing up on time? I mean, when I was at DUCOM, one of the first instances that I got that experienced the coaching thing is I had a string of a couple months that I was late. I was late a couple minutes every day. And my supervisor said, "Hey, why you were never late? Why are you late before?" And I told her, I'm like, "Look, I just moved, and I moved like 30 minutes away, and I'm just trying to get used to the traffic. And some days are different than others." And that seems minute, but they just wanted to know why, like what's going on today. And you have someone that's maybe not following the protocols the right way, just maybe what are they not getting? Maybe it's a technology issue. They're having a hard time flowing through the protocols, or they can't read the card sets, or just what is causing you to do what you're doing or to not do what you're doing. The options, and then you move down to options is okay, how are we going to fix this? Where are we going to go for here? Do we need to create a different way for you to learn how to do this? Do we need, not all of us learn one way. I'm a very visual learner. If something's just, hey, here, you need to read this policy or read this manual. Okay, well, let's kind of put it into some kind of visual. Maybe they'll learn that way. And then lastly is will. It's just kind of setting up some goals and commitment to getting them to say, hey, we're going to do this. I want you to work on improving your QA skills, and I want to see a 50% improvement in 3 months, and that's how you kind of set up the will. And the biggest deal for all this also is to make sure that you set up SMART objectives. For those of you that aren't familiar with the term SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and then time sensitive or time related. Just making sure that you follow those things when you're looking at goals. So going back to line level supervisors, one of the other things, and again, this is from Adam Tim, one of the studies that he had seen and talked to someone in the Western US is looking at interactions in a different way. And a director in the Western U.S. challenged his supervisors that if they were going to have maybe what would be a difficult conversation with someone, or something where punishment might be in line, he wanted to make sure that they had 3 positive interactions before they had that negative one. I go back to when I was in high school. I took a consumer ed class, and we learned how to write a complaint letter. And one of the best ways to start with a complaint letter is to start off with some kind of positive note. Say you're writing about a restaurant where maybe you got poor service. Start off with talking about the 5 other times that you got great service and how it's really your favorite restaurant, and then you get into the negatives. So, a 3-to-1 ratio, it doesn't, the more the better, but just trying to keep that 3-to-1 positive ratio is really fantastic. And lastly, just making sure that you embrace teamwork and collaboration, but you don't want to rely on crisis motivation. Crisis motivation, and you hear it in every center, is, when it hits the fan, we all get together. All right, when we have a really big incident, and I'm going to talk a little bit at the end here about 1 October, is when the going got tough. We all kind of dropped everything, and we just started working together. And the teamwork was fantastic. The interactions were fantastic, and we solved the crisis. I mean, that's what we do in centers, is crisis. We deal with crisis. But we can't rely on us coming together in crises, to have that sole moment. where that's going to solve everything. We want to try and take that crisis, that motivation we have of trying to accomplish the mission, we want to put it to every day. So especially as a supervisor, be like, hey, when my staff comes together, when they need it, well, they need it 24/7. Trainers and CTOs, you guys are the most important people in a center. Most important people in a center, because you're responsible for building the foundation and trust and behavior in a center. You are the ones that when the new people come in, if you interact with them positively, if you show them the right ways, if you show them how to act, if you show them how important they are to a center, you're only setting them up for success. All right. You have to be the most positively infectious people in the entire center, because your trainees are going to be going through a lot of stuff. And not only are they be going through a lot of stuff of dealing with trying to learn the job, they're going to be dealing with the veteran dispatchers that want you to already know how to do the job. Hey, you've been here 5 minutes, but I want you to act like you've been here for 20 years. And we got to have some certain level of expectation. One of the other things that I want you to do, that I really urge you to do, is don't only just train for the job, train for the life as a 911 dispatcher, because it's not just the calls, it's not just the policies and procedures that really weigh on us. It's the entire life as a dispatcher. It's overtime, and it's mandates, and it's denied vacations, and it's not seeing your family, it's not seeing your loved ones. It's that's going to break you down as a dispatcher, probably before a call is going to break you down. So if you start teaching people how to deal with that before they have to deal with it, you're only going to set them up for success. And lastly, if you don't have one, I really suggest you should create a mentoring program. For those of you that aren't aware of what mentoring is, it's looking at life beyond training. In a center that I worked in, we would, once a trainee was signed off, they were on their own, we would assign them a mentor. They were a person that they could connect with regardless of what was going on, whether it's an issue about they're not sure how this policy is, they're not sure how this standard needs to be looked at. They're a person that they can go to, and regardless of what's going on, they're their mentor. They're their go-to person. They know that no matter what happens, they have a go-to person that's in their corner. They're going to mentor them, not only, like I said, on the policies and procedures in a center, but life as a dispatcher. And put them a couple months, a year, through the entirety of their probation. There's a lot of different things you can do. And also make sure it's not a trainer. It's not another trainer. You don't want it to really be a training thing. It's just you want someone to kind of mentor them about the life of the job. And then lastly, telecommunicators and dispatchers. The biggest thing I want you to take out of this, and as much as I really harped on administration and supervisors, I don't want you to ever lose or underestimate the power of one person just trying to be positively infectious. Like Halcyon talked about today, just be that encourager. I mean, I can't embody that, and I can't promote that enough to just be that positive person. And if you're going to be positive with anyone, is to embrace your new hires and trainees, because again, they're coming in. They're the newbie. They're being molded by every single interaction, by every single moment when they come in the center. And if we meet them as crusty old veterans, and one of my favorite things I like to talk about is you have that one person that was like, "Hey, did you see that new hire? Did you see that new hire that they brought in? She is always smiling." Always has a smile on her face, always laughing, always just giggling. It makes me sick. Ugh, I hate it. We don't want that, because we're going to beat that out of them with the job itself. We don't need to beat them out of them, person to person. We just don't want that. This is one of the things that we did in our center. This is new. We had an academy that just started a couple weeks ago, and this was on the wall in the training room, and we just wanted to welcome them. I had taken this idea from San Jose Fire in their communication center, and we just welcomed them with some messages. We knew that we weren't going to be able to interact with them because of what was going on. Everything with the COVID-19, they were just going to be separated for us, for several months, but we wanted to know that we were thinking about them. And not only did we welcome them into our family, into the new home that they're going to have, we also wanted to give them some pointers of how to set themselves up for success through what they're going to do. And then we just did some quotes. This is definitely something that's near and dear to Nathan and I. It says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And as 911 dispatchers, you can be that change." So just making sure that you're setting your trainees up for success. Lastly, wrapping up the dispatchers and telecommunicators, take advantage of those opportunities to participate and engage. Join committees, join groups. It's really easy just to come into work, to clock in, clock out, and just do your thing. But if you want to see a better place, if you think your center is not a really good place for behavior, you think infectious behavior is really poor and everyone really has a sour mood, step up, become involved, start being that change. And one of the ways that we did that in our center, and I know Leah talked about it yesterday, was social media. And we talked about recognition, being really difficult, and it doesn't always have to cost things. And one of the easiest ways to recognize and to do it on a big level is through social media. Our social media for the Combined Communication Center, if you ever look us up, give us a like, give us a follow. We make sure that we recognize the efforts of our dispatchers all the time. We started it. It was completely dispatcher driven. It wasn't management, and it wasn't anything. Like, we do have a chief that oversees it, but I have a committee of 5 people that work on this, and we solely look at just the good work that's being done in our center. The first picture you have up here is Brian Stammer. He had just delivered his first baby. He was just kind of on his own in that call taking float phase, and we wanted to make sure that he was recognized for delivering his first kid. Teamwork, recognizing on July 4th. July 4th is one of the busiest years for us in Las Vegas. We had taken, this past July 4th, we took 1,600 calls in a short amount of time. Our call takers were averaging over 40 calls an hour, and we just wanted to make sure that they were recognized on a global scale for the good work that they did. And it's not only just work achievements, but it might also be personal achievements. This is Jordan Fox. For those of you that might know her, she was the only teammate on our 1 October team that worked that event. The 18 people involved in that event that is not in our center anymore, and the reason is because she went to become a Las Vegas Metro police officer. And as much as we missed, and we still miss her, the fact that she left, we wanted to just say we were still so proud of her, and this was her graduation from the academy, and we just wanted to tell her that we had missed her. This was Veterans Day. We have a bunch of veterans that work in our center. We gave each of them a moment to just be recognized and to be thanked for their service, not only in what they do every day, but the fact that they're veterans. And then two more here, and these are just ideas that you can use for just recognizing your employees. Again, just building that positive behavior and response in your center. These are 3 of our new telecommunicators. When they got signed off and they had their badge pinning, we want to make sure that we welcome them to our center, and that we were happy that they passed, and they can start taking some of our overtime. And then lastly, achievements beyond the center. This is us. One of our posts thanking Tina DeCola. She's another dispatcher, not only just another dispatcher, but she is another instructor with the foundation that teaches human trafficking and peer support. And this was her first class that she had taught with the foundation. And we were really proud of the work that she not only does for us, but she does for our center. So lastly, there's no room for ego. There is no room for ego within a center. You need to leave it at the door. And that's one of the first steps you can do is, no matter what you do within a center, it's not just about you. You have to look at the collective of how your center's going, and that breaks down into the power of choice. You're going to hear Nathan talk about it a little bit more on Wednesday, but the role of choice within your centers, the role of choice that you have, you can come in and you can be one of those people that's disengaged. You can be one of those people that's somewhat disengaged. You can come in and you can be that person that's sick of the new person smiling all the day. But those are all choices. Those are all choices that you make within a center. You can come in and you can be rude to callers, or you can come in and you can be happy and nice to callers. And there is nothing that is physically making you act that way. There is nothing that is making you be rude. Nothing. Exactly. There's no I in team. You have to look at this from a global aspect. And again, it's a team. All four aspects have to work on this together. And if you just have one, of these doing it, you might have some really great success. But when you're looking at from an organizational standpoint, if you really want it to be successful, you got to look at all four roles. So back to the bad apple. One of the questions we always get is, okay, yeah, I've set these things up. I've tried to look at the culture. I've tried to look at the climate. I recognize my people, but you're still going to have that one person. You're going to have that one person that puts their feet up, that just doesn't care. And how do we deal with that bad apple? One of the first things you need to do is make sure you're setting clear expectations, that you have accountability at all levels. Not only from the top are you going to be accountable, but you got to hold all your supervisors accountable to make sure that they're following all the policies and procedures. Again, embrace positive feedback. It might solve the issue within itself. You might just have a person that is just they think they do a good job, but they come into work and it's always the bad person that gets all the attention. So you know what? I'm going to be bad too. So maybe if you start embracing some positive feedback and be like, hey, look, you really handled that call really well. We're really happy that you delivered a kid, or you talked to that domestic person, or we have people saving lives in centers every single day. Every single phone call is a moment for you to have some positive interactions. If you do have to have that difficult conversation, make sure you're looking at we statements. It's not I. It's not I think you're doing a bad job. It's that's not a good way to do it anyways. It's we. It's this organization. We need to look at this as a collective, because if you start with we statements, you're going to get that buy-in. You want everyone to kind of be in this together. And again, embracing coaching and the GROW model. Lastly, look at your hiring practices. Especially when it comes to your CTOs and your trainers. If you keep giving them bad hires and bad trainees, what's going to happen? You're going to burn your CTOs out. You're going to burn your trainers out. And maybe they're going to start talking rudely or start talking poorly. They're not going to put their full effort into it. And yeah, you want to address that, but just stop giving them bad hires, So maybe just really look at your hiring practices. Embrace what Tracy talked about with personality, making sure that you address the personality of your hires and kind of how you need to handle them. And lastly, integrity, making sure that you have integrity at all levels. One other thing is with bad apples is there's a big difference between bad apples and what they call positive deviants. And those might be those people that are just kind of devil's advocates, or they're maybe going against the grain a little bit, but they really just want to bring some positive change. When it came to the social media for us, some of us were seen as positive deviants because we were kind of balking against some of the policies that the city had, but it was just our way of trying to recognize our dispatchers for doing the work that we did. So a lot of times positive deviants get wrapped up with bad apples, but you want to make sure that you know the difference between the two. One of the last things that you can do when it comes to infectious behavior and improving the behavior and just overall culture of your center is having peer support. because what is more infectious and more positive within a center is the fact that you can support each other. Make sure that from the top down, you have a culture that supports that program. And that's not only the fact that you have management that allows you to have that program, but you have people that are willing to participate. I talk about with 1 October, we had our first debriefing on the Wednesday after the event. The event happened on Sunday. We had our first debriefing on Wednesday. I was called by one of our dispatchers, Susie. She told me that the debriefing on Wednesday and that we should come. For those of you that maybe haven't been at a debriefing, you kind of sit in a circle and you kind of talk about your feelings or kind of how that, just how you felt with that event. And that wasn't my cup of tea. It wasn't really something that I wanted to do. But Tina DeCola, other instructor or coworker, she had called me. For those of you that know Tina or don't know Tina, she's about, 5'2" or something like that. She's like 105 pounds soaking wet, and I am positively terrified of her. So she said, you need to go. You need to go to this debriefing. You need to talk about what was going on. And to this day, it was one of the best things that I ever did. To know that there are people out there that want you to just not only be successful, but want you to see you through the entirety of a call, not only just the call itself, but the after effect and the aftermath. What's better than that? Not only does it decrease day-to-day stress, but it just increases the longevity of the people that we have in centers. Don't just respond to the 1 October style events, respond from a peer support aspect to all the calls. Just our everyday calls, you might have to take a look at it. And lastly, one of the things, if you not only have a peer support crew, is have a sunshine crew. In our center, we have a sunshine crew that they send out cards for birthdays. They send out cards and flowers if you have a death or if you have a tragedy in your family. They look at other aspects of our personal lives, and again, that's just purely dispatcher driven and something that we just like to do to take care of each other. Just to talk about 1 October, just one little bit, talking about the power of choice and the power of one, not underestimating the power that you have as one person. One example of, and I talk about it every time that I teach with Nathan or I teach the Vegas class, is it was about 4 a.m. Now this event started just after 10 p.m. It was about 4 a.m, Monday morning. And it was a point where we were transitioning from a rescue to a recovery. And if you were in our center at the time, right about 4 a.m., it kind of sounded, you could hear a pin drop. Kind of sounds like it is right in my house right now. It's really quiet because we got hit. We got hit by a truck. We didn't know how to react to what happened. We were just shell-shocked. We were shell-shocked trying to just fathom what had happened. And it was extremely quiet. The calls had started to slow down. And our most senior dispatcher came in. His name is David Westbrooks. He's been there almost as long as I've been alive. And he walked in and he started walking around and he just started cracking jokes. And he started to just get people to laugh because that's what we needed. I mean, that's what we needed at that moment. We needed to start not only the recovery for this incident, but the recovery for ourselves personally. And it was him alone at that very moment that started that process. It was the power of his choice to just be the one person that he said, you know what? I'm going to start cracking jokes. We're going to have some positivity and we're going to get through the rest of this evening. And I will never, ever forget that moment when he started walking around cracking jokes, because if he didn't do that, I don't know where we'd be today. And coming back to the whole purpose of the foundation, and for those of you that know Denise's story, is the fact that if maybe in her center, the ones that dealt with this incident, maybe if they had a little bit of positive infectious behavior, we might not be here today. The fact that those couple dispatchers had some personal conflict, there wasn't a lot of support from a supervisor aspect, and just the fact that you couldn't rely on the crisis motivation, that when you had a big incident that you're going to come together. That's why I said you can't rely on that crisis motivation. And Denise is unfortunately a byproduct of that. And as much as I love Nathan and I love Tanya and his entire family, there's zero reason that that any of us should know him in this industry. He should just be another person that is just having a good, happy life in Florida with his wife and his boys. But because infectious behavior wasn't present in his center, or at least it was to the negative, that's where we're at. So that's actually all I have for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed most of this presentation. That's my email at the top there. You can reach me at mgrogan@deniseamberlee.org. I promise there's a G in my name, not a B. I wish I was related to Josh Groban. I'm going to raise all of you up. You can find Denise Amberlee Foundation information about our classes at deniseamberlee.org. You can find the foundation on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find myself on Facebook and Instagram. Friend request me, do whatever. I love talking to people all over the country. And if you want to get the most up-to-date information about the foundation, any news that we have, any classes that we have, not only, obviously, we're doing this conference because we're not able to have classes in person, but we're also starting to do a whole lot of webinars. I actually have a webinar coming up the end of this month that talks about the Vegas shooting. If you want news and updates about any of that, I want you to text DALF, DALF, to 66866, and you'll be included in our newsletter. So, Ricardo, I appreciate the fact that you gave us this opportunity to come together to meet. I'm a little upset you're not wearing your IM 911 hat, but I understand that you're trying to be a little professional. So that's all I got for you. Hopefully, I see there's some questions. I'll do my best to answer them.
Yeah, man, we've got a little bit of time here before we go. So we've got like about 9 or so minutes here. So we've got 3 questions. The top question here is, you say focus on non-performers. What do you suggest as ways to get them involved?
That we go back, when you go back to the GROW model here, let me kind of see if I can get back to it. When we look at the GROW model, one of the best ways when you're looking at non-performers and addressing them is to look at the reality. Why are they not performing? Is it the fact that they're not getting they're not understanding the policies, they're not understanding the procedures, or is it something that has to do with their personal environment? Are they having personal issues? Are they having personal conflict? Maybe they're getting bullied. Maybe they're getting harassed. There are multiple reasons that we have people that don't perform in our centers, and we need to look at it. And the easiest way, and I always talk about this, and I wish I would have talked about it today, so thank you for the question, whoever asked it, especially as supervisors and people that need to give feedback. We talk to people and we listen. When you're listening, we're listening to figure out how to respond, and we're not listening to understand. And just taking a moment to listen and understand why that person's telling you what they are, as opposed to just trying to figure out what you're going to say next. I think that's the best way you can deal with non-performers is taking stock and why that's not going on. And if you use this coaching model, hopefully you can kind of deal with that.
Excellent. The next question here is, how long does one stay in the mentoring program?
Generally, it really depends on it can be anywhere from, I like to say anywhere from 3 months to a year, trying to figure out some happy medium, because once that person gets on their own, you want them to kind of get a lay of the land. So that's why you maybe don't necessarily just want it to be a month, because they're going to get through that first round of calls. They're going to deal with their first mandatory overtime. They're going to get to deal with, okay, how do I put in for a day off? How do I do a lot of those things? And it takes time to get through all those experiences. So if you give them 3 months to a year to be part of that mentoring program, it really gives that mentor a chance to look at the entire aspect of what being a 911 dispatcher is. Like I said, it's not just the calls that are hard, and they're obviously hard. It's the life of a dispatcher that's hard, and it's all the aspects that come into it, and that's why it's really important to train beyond just the call.
And then so there was a last question on here, but a bunch of people commented on it already. But I'm gonna go ahead and say it anyway for those who end up going into the replay and to see it later. It says, can you go over the SMART acronym again?
Yeah, the SMART acronym. Let's see here. I'm going to try and be fancy here and see if I can maybe share it. Hold on one second here.
Fancy.
I try to pride myself on not having some technological issues today. And my computer doesn't want to cooperate with me. So bear with me here one second. No, not gonna work here. SMART. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. And I'll kind of break those down quickly. When you're looking at goals and kind of setting objectives, the first thing is to be specific. When you're looking at QAs, you want to have a specific percentage of improvement. If you are wanting to have more positive interactions with people, you're going to be like, I want to say hi to 5 people a day. I mean, just something very simple like that. Again, measurable. Make sure you can kind of track it. You can kind of look at and how you're making that progress. And if you're looking for a 30% improvement, make sure you can measure the fact that you have a 5% improvement. Attainable, make sure that you can actually do that. Realistic, to make sure that, just to be honest with yourself. Tracy talked about that earlier. Don't BS yourself. Just make sure that this is a realistic goal, and make sure it's time sensitive. The fact that you want to get something done in a specific amount of time. So again, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time specific. So,
all right. And let's see. Oh, another one came in just now. So it says, where will the webinar for the Las Vegas shooting be hosted and when?
You can find it on the Denise Amber Lee Foundation website. So if you go to deniseamberlee.org, they should, on the front page there, have some information on events and webinars. It is the last Wednesday of the month, which will be the 27th, so it'll be May 27th. The webinars are now free, thanks to our amazing sponsor, Rapid SOS. So thank you, Tracy and Karen and the entire crew at Rapid SOS. All of our webinars are free, so you can tune in there. So just make sure you go on to the deniseamberlee.org website and register for it.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you again, man, very much for being here, for doing this. And we did a test last night, and then here we are again.
Yeah,
and it was all good. Hopefully you can get to sleep unless you got to go into work a little bit later.
I do have to go into work a little bit later, so hopefully it'll be another fun night. So,
thank you for the dedication, man. I appreciate you doing this.
And I'm just building my repertoire for one of your open mics, and we're gonna have a good time.
Boom! There you go, man. Thank you again very much, and for everyone who's watching right now, we are moving into our last session of the day for Dare to Be Great 2020. This is going to be the last session for day 1. And that starts at 4:45 p.m. Eastern time for Sit, Stand, Repeat with Samantha Sturgis. I will see you over there. I'm going to go ahead and end this broadcast, and then it's going to go into the replay, and I will bring you all over. Thank you again, everyone, and I will talk to you shortly.
Y'all have a good day.